Hey guys, and welcome back. Today I want to talk about editing your wedding, from calling to the process of editing and just not exporting. That's pretty much the where we're gonna stop. And we're not gonna cover the. I'm not gonna cover the importing part. I'm gonna tell you about it. But the reason I want to tell you about it is because I do it in a very different way, in a way that I think has worked for me better than some of the more traditional routes. So hopefully, some of you guys out there looking to figure out a new way on how to maybe get through editing your weddings less frustrating or whatever it is. I want to share my experience because to me editing weddings is one of the most frustrating things, and it's one of the hardest things for me to do. I love shooting. I shoot extremely heavy, and it's something that I have to learn, and also shoot in a very particular way. So I'm extremely particular about photos. I'm not looking for just a repertoire of images for each single wedding, which might make it easier to call in a program like photomechanic, for example, where you're like, okay, this is my shot, move on, move on. This is my shot, move on, move on. Here's my fillers, boom, 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 boom. And that's kind of how someone finishes the wedding. For me, it's like, what do I got? What do I got? What did I get? Did I get that? Did I not get that? Did I achieve what I wanted on this shot? Let me see. So part of the whole process of shooting and then post production sort of have to work seamlessly for me in that way, which for some other people might not, like I said. But with that said, I'm hoping this is a really cool video for some of you guys. And just to cover the basics here. So photo mechanic, that's usually the main to-go place for people to start editing weddings. They're cold, their photos there. Photo mechanics is software that allows you to preview a JPEG version of the original RAW if you shoot RAW. Unlike like most people, very few people I know that shoot in JPEG. I shoot RAW as well, but it gives you that preview, so you're able to cycle through the images really fast and be able to kind of tag the ones you want to keep, and then you can transport them and put them in another folder, or and import them into Lightroom if you're a Lightroom user like I am. I'm not really going to discuss any other software. I'm primarily a Lightroom user. So that's the first step. And then from there on, people will bring their photos into Lightroom or whatever software, and then they will apply their presets in there and maybe make adjustments, or whoever, maybe even recall a little tighter. I'm not so sure how other people do it because I don't have experience that way. But what I have tried with that particular process is calling in Lightroom, calling in Photo Mechanic, importing into Lightroom, creating what is called either standard or one-on-one previews, and also creating smart previews. The regular previews, the standard or the one-on-one previews, allow you to cycle through the images faster in Lightroom, particularly in library mode, not so much in develop mode. And with the smart previews, you're able to open the gallery and work on the files and do the same things without having the hard drive where the original RAWs are in, plugged into your computer or whatever you're working out of. So that's the first process. You create that, and then you will finish up things over here. Now, for me personally, that process was an issue because I will call in Photo Mechanic, then I will import once again into Lightroom with the standard previews and then the smart previews. And the speed wasn't so much of the issue at that point, especially working off of just the catalog alone. But the issue mostly was that I found myself kind of recalling some of the images. I will tend to kind of call a little heavy on Photo Mechanic. So if you're one of those people that like Photo Mechanic gets you almost halfway there, but you're not quite fully there with your calling, then you're in my boat. Because what's happening now is you're now going all through that and then still going into Lightroom and sort of comparing these images, however you do it. The way I would normally do it is I will use the what is that mode called? Survey mode. That's what it is. Survey mode. Yeah, I know it has some name. Survey mode, which the reason I don't know a lot of this these menus and things like this, because everything I work on when it comes to Lightroom is all done through my keyboard. And my keyboard is set up to kind of like do the things that I do, and I have memorized the ones that I do all the time. Like for me, that's survey mode is just a click of the mouse, a click of the keyboard. I mean, so I was still survey and compare them, and then still pick the ones that are closer to what I want. So which actually turned photomechanic more into like a sharp tool. Like is this photo sharp? Is this photo out of focus? So I will tend to get rid of just mostly the really out of focus images that I was not going to use, that I didn't shoot out of, on purpose and out of focus, or the photos that just didn't turn out, the like black photos, or extremely overexposed photos that I cannot recover one way or the other. So that's what it turned out to be, and I'm still coming into Lightroom and kind of recalling and now editing and kind of like adjusting photos. Either I will narrow down the final pics again, and then either whether they have a preset applied to them or not, I will apply the preset and maybe make the adjustments of exposures and color and white balance. So because that's usually kind of like what my process is. There's not really much more to it. So what I decided that I was just better at working out of Lightroom. Now let me show you something here. Now this is my speed between photos in Lightroom. It's not terribly slow. And once in a while a little lag. It's lagging now. But it's not terribly slow in the sense of like I'm looking through these images. But the difference and the main reason for maybe this working for me, and if it will work for someone else, and you can kind of be the judge of that, is I'm using survey mode for just about everything. So like I'm looking at these photos, and then when I go in here, under survey mode, they move much faster. As you can see, like I can sort of go through them really fast, and then I know this is my image right here, and then I might look through them again and see if there's anything else that I'm missing, and if there isn't, that's my shot, and I'm moving on, and I'm gonna be selecting the next section. That's sort of all the sequence shots that are very similar. Like these all seem pretty similar to me, even all the way up to, let's go here. So now once again, I'm gonna go in survey mode. I'm gonna be looking. I know I was down here. I was looking for my shots. I can actually, for my mouse, I use a tablet. So from my tablet, I'll just select, I know which one's highlighted down here. So highlighted right here. So I know that's the highlighted one, so I'll select it. And that's one of the ones I end up picking. And then I can get rid of the photos this way a little bit better. Maybe that one. And the images I select are a lot of them according to how I shoot, what my vision is. And also the personality of my couples. Like if I know my couple is a certain way, I'm paying attention for that in the images. I don't want to, edit out something that's very natural to them just because maybe it's not something I photograph, or not something I would do photograph or anything like that. So, and then I'll get rid of the rest. And I'm not getting rid of them, by the way. I have created collections, and they're all under here, and so the images still exist in the main catalog. But once again, I'm still working off of the catalog. So I'm not even working off of the raw files yet. The raw files, I attach the drive before I export, because it gives you better quality in the final export. But the advantage of it is, like, if for example your hard drive crashed or you lost the original files, you can still work off of a catalog that has smart previews and still edit and still adjust things, color, exposure, and anything like that, and still export to a fairly high quality JPEG, that will save your ass if all else fails. So those are good things about using that system. But I'll come back in here, for example, and now I know what these sort of images look like, so I don't really have to look at them as close as the first time around. And this process is a little bit faster when I'm not explaining it, but I can repick here some of the images that I still like, and I think these are all fairly good sequence. And if I see a similar sequence ahead, like even this one for example, I might look at it and be like, oh, I think I like it in black and white better. I actually love this color tint. I mean, there's so many things that you can. Oh, if for example, there's an image I like because it's interesting or something, and this is a happy accident, obviously. The light of the DJs and my light and everything's just sort of coming together. So this is not a filter. This is the same filter as this. So these photos are both being treated exactly the same. As a matter of fact, if I copy the exposure, the set over here, all it changed was the exposure because obviously this one I made a little bit darker. But yeah, so that's kind of the process of it. So if for example later on I come in here and I'm looking at more photos that are similar to the very shot, I'm still in this position. I'm still like looking what I can get from this position, and if I find another sequence here that might work, let's say that. So I might even go back in here and look at all of these as a whole. Be like, wait, do I have too many of the same thing? So like for example, I think that's better image now that I look at it, and I think I like that. And out of these, sometimes I'll even come in and zoom in and see what I'm looking at. I like that much better. Yeah, and that's fine. And once again, I'm narrowing stuff down. I mean, the goal, honestly, I don't want to leave any images that are particularly good out of the mix, but I also don't want to leave too many images where it kind of robs the audience of too much to look at, and you almost kind of like, I think it's great to have a lot of things to look at, but at the same time, I think when there is too many images, the message could get watered down a little bit. So unless it's something that I think is valuable, I will not leave as many images as possible. Like for example, these two images are good, and this one also good, but almost too repetitive without really much of anything. So I might just choose to make one of them in black and white just to give it a little variety. That's kind of the process that I use, you guys. I know it seems a little tedious, but the truth is that the reason I like it is because several things. One, I'm able to see everything at once, which is something that I cannot really do in photomechanic. Now, all my photos also have my adjustment, my basic preset on them, so I'm able to just kind of look at them one step further than a JPEG, than straight out of camera. I am a little bit of a wild shooter. I will, if I see a scene where I just need to shoot it now before I lose it, I will shoot it even if the settings are off. And it's something that I know my limitations within my software, that I can actually do recoveries and things like that. So I do have a certain vision as I'm shooting. So these are the kind of things that I'd rather see a little bit closer when it comes to my post. Even here, for example, like and it keeps going back and forth, and that's the one thing that in and I'm actually working on this wedding as I go. So these two are much better than even this. I'm working on this wedding as I go. This is actually like real time. But it allows me to sort of see that in full spectrum on kind of what I meant to shoot and what the range of the things is. And if there's something down the line that, for example, like I come back to the same spot that I just edited, for example, and I get some more shots of that same angle and they're better, I will go back to that previous set and I'll hold them all as a whole, like survey them and get rid of more because they're still repetitive. You know what I mean? That's something that I know as a shooter. So this style of editing fits that. And that's the kind of things that you have to question, I guess, yourself about when it comes to your style of, shooting versus editing versus final results and your approach and your style. My style is wilder. I don't know what I'm getting. I shoot a lot of off the hip, and just instinctually as well. Like I just kind of feel through the day and see how that kind of works. And that makes this process a lot easier. Now, a lot better for me, I should say. And the last thing I will say is I'm actually culling, editing, adjusting, finalizing all at once. As I just pass these images that you see me through, those photos are done. And if I see a photo that I really like, I will tag it. So like actually I forgot to do that in the last few. Let me see. Like I tagged that one that I showed you guys, but I actually like this image. And I might find an image that is sort of close to that I might like better later, and I'll tag both of them. Doesn't matter, because then once all the photos are edited and finalized, then I'll collect all my favorites and I'll pre-pick like a best set. Sometimes I overpick favorites, and I just have to narrow those down. But that's mostly for like posting or blogging or anything like that. So, but once this is done, I'm done. I don't have to re-go over these images again. I don't have to cull them and then import them and look at them again and maybe re-cull them or re-edit them or cull them and then edit them. And then I don't know how many people do different layers of the process like that. For me, it's just one seamless single process to it. And that is kind of what I dig the most about this process. And it doesn't really change much the outcome when it comes to time. I know it takes me about 16 hours to edit a wedding, no matter which way I've done it. I've done it the other way, and I haven't done it enough almost anyway to know like, hey, this is so much better than that. But the time seems not to really change that much. So I think if you're faster and you're more decisive and you're a lot more like, for lack of say, you have more of a repertoire and you know exactly the photograph you're looking for and that you shot, you could do it even just as fast as any other way. And the fact that I don't have to go through them again, and the fact that I'm kind of seeing everything as a final as I decide, I think that's a pretty powerful sort of thing. Even if the sacrifice is a little bit of slowness on the thing. And like I said, there's something about the survey mode when it comes to that. Like, look, I'll select quite a bit here. I'll select 50, wait, how many images? 38. This is processing. And yeah, photomechanic probably is a little bit faster than this, but in the end, honestly, I think for me it's definitely worth it. So I wanted to share with you guys, and hopefully that that is something that you can use for yourselves. And I'm gonna keep editing the rest of this, and maybe I'll fast forward it later and kind of show you like how I'll finish it all up and how long it will take me. So I just basically started this section, started with over 500 images, 523. Let's go. All right, so 502 images in almost exactly an hour, actually. Give or take, I had some issues with my computer. I had to restart it. It was just acting really slow. Even in the video I was showing you guys, it particularly was slower than usual. The reality is that going through Lightroom, as far as culling and that sort of speed, you can expect an easy 25% lag as far as time. For me personally, because of the way I compare them and the way I sort of, select my images, it works really well. I mean, 500 images in a little bit over about an hour, actually. We're talking about, you know, I shoot anywhere between 4 to 5 thousand images per wedding on average, without including second shooters. So for an average wedding, you're talking about 8 to 10 hours of editing. I mean, that is not terrible. I know some people who can edit in 30 minutes, an hour, 3 hours. I heard these things. You know, that's not me. I'm very particular about the images that I'm shooting. I'm looking for certain things I was thinking about when I was shooting. I don't have a repertoire, so in those case scenarios, maybe those things do change. You know, the effectiveness of a method like this, but on an average like that for wedding, I don't see that being horribly bad, and I also think that it's kind of nice not to be able to, you know, go over images over and over again and just kind of like re-looking at them. It just I go very instinctually. I'm able to cull this way down to a full on cull, like down to maybe somewhere around 30 to 40%, more of an average of like 30 something percent of leftover images, which, you know, I know it's a little bit high for the most people, but that's good for me. I tend to deliver heavy a little bit as well. I mean, if the image is good, I keep it. If it's sort of repetitive, I don't, or if it's bad. um, you know, so hopefully this was able to open up a new set of rules to you guys on how you do things. Let me know what you think. Check out my website, please. Send me a shout out. Follow me on social media, and you know, if you guys do anything sort of similar to this, let me know. Let me know if you're, you know, what do you know that I don't know, and you know, let's help each other out. So hopefully this was useful, and I'll see you guys in the next one.